We now continue our countdown of the top 10 ag law developments for 2025. For the past few weeks, we've been reviewing some of the biggest legal issues from last year and how they could impact farmers and ranchers in this year. Well, today we arrive at number one. And what better way to break it down than to have Roger McEowen in person in the studio? Always a pleasure. I'm telling you, you're bigger than the country artists when they come through the studio. That's how we feel about you.
I don't know about that.
Listen, the biggest development on your list, let's address it. Of course, we're talking about the one big, beautiful bill. There's a lot, a mix of tax relief and updated safety nets. And speak to that. We just heard, of course, the change in base acres.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the bill itself is over 900 pages, and it took me several days to go through that. And of course, what I do is I lay out the code when I'm looking at the tax provisions. Now, that's not all tax, but a lot of it is. Well over 200 pages of it are tax. I just lay out the hard copy of the code and look to see what Congress did, and I have to physically line out the changes to get it in my mind what they did. But there are a lot of major things in there that not only for all taxpayers, but for agriculture specifically. We think of the 20% QBI deduction, that pass-through for non-C corporations. That's a big one for many farmers. That can significantly reduce tax liability. We get basically a doubling of Section 179. They took that up to $2.5 million. It's adjusted further in 2026. We have bonus depreciation that's restored at 100%. That's huge. We get a new senior deduction. The standard deduction goes up by $6,500 for a taxpayer that's age 65 and up. So if you have both mom and dad that file a joint return, that's another $13,000, or excuse me, $12,000, $6,000 each if you're 65 and up. And the Treasury estimates that 88% of Social Security recipients won't have any tax liability because of that. That's basically no tax on Social Security, but it came out as a deduction. And you have the other extraneous provisions in there. We've got a new provision, Code Section 1062, which I'm the original drafter of, and that was designed to be an exclusion of gain when a farmer would sell farmland to another farmer and it would continue in farm use for 10 years. It's not an exclusion, but what it is I can sell my farmland to another farmer and then I can spread the gain out over 4 years if that land is not farmed for the next 10 years. So those are some pretty big provisions.
Huge help. And of course, the estate planning and gift tax, I understand, at $15 million, that's going to be permanent?
Right, $15 million made permanent, and we continue with basis step up and portability of the unused exclusion. So we're at a real sweet spot on estate and gift tax issues.
Obviously, there is a lot that is being addressed here and covered and way different from what they had been dealing with in the Farm Bill previous. A lot of people, though, are talking about this skinny Farm Bill, right? Looking at House Ag Chair G.T. Thompson right now, trying to do a mock-up by February. You're saying that really shouldn't be a concern, or should it? Should eyes be on that?
Well, we got all the basic commodity provisions in the commodity title, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, but there are certain things that cannot be done in a reconciliation bill that are in a normal farm bill, such as research issues and conservation issues and forestry and all those types of things. Just by rule, you can't do it in a reconciliation bill. So those things still remain to be done.
We love when you do these, of course, these breakdowns for us and put together this list. One of the things that I think a lot of us, especially, producers, we were talking about everything that was happening right now with the Supreme Court and President Trump's tariff plans and the rights there. I'm sure it's going to make maybe the 2026 list. What are we looking at right now with the Supreme Court? What are they thinking? How do you think this outcome is going to play out?
Yeah, this probably, if we're talking this time next year, this is probably not going to be number one on my list, regardless of what the Supreme Court says. It's a major issue for the United States, not just agriculture, but it's a big issue for agriculture as well. I think there are basically four avenues they could take, and one is to say, look, hands off. This is not the domain of the judicial branch. This is a non-justiciable issue. This is between the Congress and the president, and the Congress needs to take it up, and if they want to pull some of that power back that they gave the executive branch over the years, they need to take action. But for us, it's not any of our business.
I asked you this in the green room, and I think a lot of people may be scratching their head on this too, that the Supreme Court is involved in this. And like you said, the Congress is not mentioned. Could this, because of what's happening right now, could we see a change in how this is handled going forward with other administrations? Well,
I think it could. And one of the things that I mentioned to you is that normally courts they don't take a look at external factors. They just look at the issue before them, the statute that's before them, and kind of have blinders on and determine the legal issues for the Supreme Court based on the Constitution on a lot of their cases. This one, you cannot ignore the external factors. And just last week or 10 days ago, coming out of Davos, you see the president using tariffs not to raise revenue, but to realign the pieces on the chessboard internationally. That has nothing to do with revenue generation. Which is what this battle is supposedly about. The claim is that these tariffs are generating revenue. That has to originate with the Congress. He's not doing this for revenue generation. And the Supreme Court cannot, there's no way they can ignore that. So the next decision day is scheduled for February 20. So we're going to have it, unless they come up with another day to issue decisions, we're looking at February 20 and then the 23rd. So we're maybe 2 to 3 weeks out on this. Very
good point. And of course, always great analysis with Roger McEowen, Washburn School of Law. You want to stay with us because Roger is going to come back in our next half hour. We're going to review, that is, some of the main tax and estate issues set to impact farmers and ranchers in the year ahead. A pleasure as always.